Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. You're watching my channel's weekly compendium, ending Monday, November 18th, 2024. If you'd like to watch these compendiums a week early, you can join the channel here at the Clairvoyant tier or over on Patreon, where you get them ad-free as well. Now to the stories. Case file number 1935, written by Hervarar Saga. København Dreams, Disappearing Store, or so it seems. Many years ago, I was visiting my friends in another country, Denmark, because they were getting married. I was joined by my mother and her partner. I had to buy a dress for the occasion, so a few days before the wedding, the three of us went shopping on a Straget in København. I was really optimistic about finding a dress, but it turned out that most of the shops only had stuff that I didn't like. The colors that were in fashion that summer were rather dull, in my opinion. It started to rain a lot, and we had been walking around for hours, but I finally noticed a store that I had always liked a lot. It's a chain, and me and my mom went in there, while her partner smoked a cigarette under a little vestibule outside of the store, but he was happy to be able to finally have a smoke while we looked around inside. He smoked a lot. I will never forget what we saw inside. The store was full of people, but also the clothes were beautiful. They were almost exclusively in colors that I like. Lots of purple dresses in all shapes and sizes, and skirts that had patterns from gold, purple, and whatnot. I said to my mom that this was definitely what I needed, and I would be buying lots of things. Not just one dress, and she agreed. Even though this shop was mostly for younger women, she saw things that she wanted too. We both had wet hair and clothes from the rain, so we decided to come back again the day after and go straight to the store because we didn't want to be trying stuff on while wet. And we wanted to have lots of time and not leave her partner standing outside for long. Also, this store, unlike the others we had been to that day, was full of people. It was on 2 floors, and we could only see the stairs leading to the top floor, and glimpsed a tiny bit of what was up there. But judging from what was downstairs, we were sure it would be just as great. So we left, went straight home, and I was giddy with excitement about the next day. I don't like buying clothes for myself, and this is the only time I've ever been giddy about clothes shopping. Now, on to the next day. We went straight to the store. It was a bit of a walk from the bus stop, but right away I noticed something was off. It had the same sign outside, so it was definitely the same place. A drugstore I had visited before going in there was still across the street, but there were some things that didn't look the same. I shook off the feeling and went in, really excited, as was my mom, but inside the store, there was nothing but the same dull stuff that was in every other shop that year. Boring clothes, etc., and it looked completely different in every way. I remember my mom's disappointment. She ran up to the woman working there and asked if they had changed everything overnight. She was like, "No, we only bring in new stuff once a week." There was no second floor either. Literally nothing looked the same inside. We had to face the fact that we weren't going to be seeing any of those beautiful clothes again. One other thing that we noticed after coming back outside was that the vestibule that my mom's partner had stood under while smoking in the rain wasn't there anymore. I have often wondered about this, and me and my mom used to talk about it a lot, and she was sad about it for years. She's really into clothes. It's probably the only time me and her bonded over clothes. And I wonder what would have happened if we had bought anything there. And is this stuff like possibly happening more than we think? I've only ever heard of one similar story where a guy working in Iran went to a really nice diner in a mountain village that was on the 2nd floor above a gas station. Everyone he worked with said he was making it up because it made no sense that a fancy diner would be operating in such a remote place. But he took them there one day, really excited to show them that he was right. And then, when they get to this particular village, which looked the same as most others in the area, everything just looks as he remembers. The same gas station is there, but there's no second floor. He remembered it being the best dinner he had ever had, and so cheap that he couldn't believe it. I can still vividly remember the interior of the store, the beautiful colors I saw that day. I would describe them as dreamy. Another thing that made this store different from all the others was that it was full of people. There are lots of clothes stores on Stroget, and none of them had been particularly busy that day. Far from it, even. Then why would this one have been so crowded and full? Anyway, this is one of the strangest things that has ever happened to me. I was making a list of stuff like this while watching the TV show Dark with my husband. He thinks strange stuff is always happening to me, but he agreed that this was probably the strangest, and the fact that my mother experienced it too. And her partner, who doesn't believe in anything supernatural, makes it impossible to deny. Case file number 1936, written by Professional Tower 76, From the Deck of Dreams to Celestial Beams. I was standing on the deck of a sailboat, stone cold sober, head tilted up towards the heavens, watching both the sail I was trimming and shooting stars in an incredible night sky at about 3 a.m. I was a member of the crew on a vessel that was part of a 300-boat race from Chicago to Mackinac Island. The fastest boats in this 333-mile race finish in around 30 hours, the slowest around 60. So everyone sails through the night, and boats generally have 2 crews who work in shifts to keep fresh. By the middle of that first night, you are so far from Chicago and north of Milwaukee that the sky turns black with no light pollution of any kind. If the night is clear, as this one was, the sky becomes an absolutely awesome canvas of celestial beauty. The first time I witnessed this is the first time I became aware that the night sky is alive with activity. Not like the static picture seen from most places dotted with lights associated with human beings. Most crew members are intensely focused on a particular job on the deck, with one exception. When you are headed downwind and flying a spinnaker, the big round sail in front, one crew member is charged with trimming that beast, also known as a chute, which requires staring nearly straight up at the top edge of the sail and making adjustments as needed. It can be a tough job, due mostly to keeping your head at that angle and maintaining a laser focus. I liked it because you were also staring at that incredible celestial canvas, which was often filled with shooting stars. This night was no exception, shooting stars every 10 minutes or so. I would scream, "Wow!" at each one, and the other crew members would laugh at my giddiness. It was fantastic. Then one particular prominent shooting star streamed in front of my right, as if intentionally placed in my field of view, so I didn't even have to move my head to get a crystal clear view of it. All the others fizzled out pretty quickly, but not this one. This one came to a sudden stop to the right of the sail edge that had my attention until that moment. I stared in disbelief for a few moments, assumed my laser-focused eyes had somehow played a trick on me. But there was this star, much brighter than those around it, just sitting there after streaking in. As I stared for a few more moments, trying to make sense of this, an equally bright red star suddenly appeared right next to it, like they were almost attached. I flexed my knees a little more, deeply in disbelief, staring, unable to speak. And after a few more moments, the tandem moved together, forming a very big Z pattern in the sky, very quickly, in about a second or two, and then disappeared. I stood for about a minute in stunned silence, deep breathing to regain my composure, and hearing a very strange kind of communication in my head that said, "Relax, it's okay, you're okay, and there's no need to make a big deal about this. You're fine. Just keep doing your job." It's hard to explain where this voice came from. It wasn't mine trying to calm myself down. It felt as if it came from the stars, as weird as that sounds. But it worked, and I was super calm after hearing it. I didn't share the story with another crew member until we finished the race the next day, over a hamburger on Mackinac Island. Case file number 1937, written by Garway Moon. From Missing 411 to Boots on the Run. This is about my boots, which took themselves off for a walking tour and then came back. About 2 years ago, my husband and I went on a driving holiday around Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming. We are interested in out-of-the-way sights and geology, and I'm interested in high strangeness, and especially the missing 411 cases. On our way through Colorado, we stopped off at a mom-and-pop store similar to a Tractor Supply, where my husband browsed happily in the sporting goods section, and I wandered around till I found myself in the boots aisle. One pair jumped out to me, a low-cut Ariat with American flags sewn into the leather. I treated myself to them. Once home again, they went into the section of my closet where boots live. I wore them a couple times, put them back where I took them from, and so on. I'm pretty fussy about my footwear. Last year, around July 4th, I went to grab them to wear them at the local parade, and they were just not there. Thinking I'd left them somewhere, I checked our trucks, nothing. Checked all the other house closets, nothing. Really frustrated, I pulled everything out of my closet, looked in all the shoeboxes and all the containers. Still nothing. I gave up at that point, but I never forgot, and it always bugged the hell out of me. Where were they? We recently went to visit friends in the South for a week. I found another pair of boots I liked, and when I went to pay for them, I told my friend and the lady at the desk a brief version of this story, saying, "You wait, I'll buy these and the others will turn up." We get home from the airport, and it takes me a few days to get around to unpacking my suitcase. I open my closet to put the suitcase away, and my original flagged Ariats are standing, neatly paired up, in the center of the clear space where my suitcase usually stands. No sensible explanation for this at all, except that my boots walked off and then came back. Case file number 1938, written by Moni Nina. A smashed van, then not. What a strange plot. So, I'm driving down I-5S towards San Diego on a busy weekend, back home around 8 p.m. I'm in the left carpool lane and see cars in front of me slowing down, and I realize there's potentially an accident, which isn't uncommon. We approach the accident and realize the white van is totaled, with smoke visible, and the van looks like an accordion smashed in together. We see no cops and decide to call 911 in case the passengers have been unable to. Overall, we drove slowly and we couldn't see the passengers, but the state of the vehicle prompted my partner to make the call. We provided location information, and I decided to exit as quickly as possible and go back to check and see if they needed help. I exit the freeway and circle back. No more than 7 minutes have gone by, and as we once again approach the accident, the queue of cars is longer, but we finally see the white van at a short distance. As I approach the vehicle, now I see 2 young men outside the van, changing what looks like a tire. The van has no accident marks, it's whole. It's no longer like an accordion smashed together. It's solid, and there's no smoke. Both my partner and I looked at each other, confused, and started to discuss what the hell just happened when the van was smashed in and looked so bad that we called 911 and went back to see if they needed help. It was exactly the same van, same color, same location, but no longer a total wreck like it was just a few minutes ago. We didn't stop and kept driving given the change in the van's appearance, and 2 men obviously okay, and just questioned what we had seen the first time, and now what we were realizing in front of us. Given we drove slow in both instances and saw the wreckage the first time, we had a total WTF moment, and immediately nothing made sense. We both agreed that we did see the wreck, and we both saw the van smashed in. We drove quietly back home after, realized something odd and eerie had just happened with our realities. To this day, I wonder and question if going back changed the situation. If so, I hope at least in the new reality, the passengers made it out alive and uninjured. Likewise, if what we saw did happen, then in another reality, they likely really got injured or worse. Case file number 1939, written by Anonymous. Driving north with a temporal report. Me and a buddy were driving home late one night from an NBA game. We lived about 45 minutes from the arena downtown. We are driving northbound on the freeway in heavy traffic for about 15 minutes. And next thing we know, we are several cities north of our hometown, not another car in sight, and only 15 minutes have passed. We look at each other at the same time when we realize we've gone way too far, look down at the clock in the car, and realize only 15 minutes have passed. Remember, a drive home should have taken 45 to 60 minutes, and we are at least 30 minutes past our hometown the other way, and we both started losing our damn minds. We turned around and drove back south, towards home. Nothing strange happened. It took the 30 minutes it should have to get home. To this day, everyone we tell about this story tells us we are lying, or trying to pull some kind of a joke. Sure, we could have been distracted by the radio, or talking too much, where you forget what happens. But the time issue. It only took us 15 minutes to get somewhere where it should have taken at least an hour. I truly believe between the last thing we remembered and when we realized where we were, we entered some kind of time warp. I hope no one thinks we're crazy. Case file number 1940, written by Tramp Stamp Champ. Gold by day, UFO by night, peppered with a cosmic fright. My girlfriend and I were up in New Hampshire, gold panning with her sister and brother-in-law. We got back to the condo and went outside to try to see the comet Neowise. We had no luck the first night. My girlfriend's family left the next day, so it was just the two of us there. We were outside, trying to see the comet at around 9:30. It was great. We saw Saturn and Jupiter ride together over the mountains. We saw satellites flying by, and we even saw a couple shooting stars, but no Neowise. We decided a while later, around 11, that we were going to go look for the comet again. We had been looking at the sky for a long time when we finally saw what we thought was a comet, straight below the Big Dipper. So we went back to the condo because I had remembered that we had a pair of binoculars. I grabbed them and we went back to the stargazing spot. Now, the binoculars only had one lens, so the image wasn't very clear, but it still magnified it enough to where we could tell that we were definitely seeing Neowise. It was incredible. This is where it gets weird. After looking at the comet, we were looking at the rest of the sky when we saw what looked like a blinking light in the sky, and it was moving all over the place. It definitely wasn't a satellite because satellites move in straight lines. This thing was going in every direction, making turns and doing like corkscrews all over the night sky. When I looked through the binoculars, I could see that the object wasn't actually blinking, but that the light appeared to be on one side of it, and it was constantly rotating so the source of light would either face towards us or away from us. When the light was pointing directly at us, it was the brightest thing in the sky. Even when it turned away from us, I could still see it through the binoculars as this small dark spot. We watched this thing fly through the sky for as long as we could, until we couldn't see it anymore. What we saw was a UFO. I don't know what the hell it was, but that night has stuck with me. Case file number 1941, written by Marsh Cranberry. 5 blocks away was Mike, who vanished that day. Okay, so it was the first day of kindergarten, and I lived about 5 blocks from school. But I lived on the bottom of the hill, where the school was on top. You could pretty much see the house from the door to the school. My mother was not great. Like lost custody about a year later, not great. Anyway, that morning she gets all drunk and is like, "I'll watch you go to school from here. Then, when school is over, I'll wait outside and you can just walk home. I was like, huh, okay, I'm 5. So I went to school, did my thing. When the day was over, this lady was assigning other kids to walking routes. She was like, you will go on this route. And I was like, no, my mom is waiting for me right down the street. And she was like, no, you will go with this team here. And I got mad. I had a hell of a temper too, as I screamed that my mom was waiting and she would be mad if I took a route. The woman was like, you need someone to go with you. This slightly older kid said, I'm Mike, I'll take you home, it's on the way to my house. And we took off. Right away, I see my mom isn't waiting on the porch for me, which was to be expected. About 3 blocks down, Mike was like, I live like 2 blocks down this street. You see your house, right? And I was like, yeah, it's like 2 blocks away. So he takes off. 1 block away from home, this van rolls up. Hey kid, you need a ride? I didn't pay much attention. I was like, my mom is waiting for me. And he was like, your mom told me to pick you up. Now the fact that my mom wasn't waiting on the porch like she said she would, told me, okay, she is partying at the friend's house, I'll just hop in. This is when I heard Mike's voice behind me say, hey, you get out of here. And the dude looked super freaked out, like from friendly smile to frightened, and he took off fast. I turned to Mike, who I had heard yell super loud a second before. I swear he was right behind me, and no one was there. No one at all. I went back half a block and he wasn't there, and didn't see him the last block home either. The next day, when I got to school, the woman who was assigning routes the day before took me to the office because I had skipped on my route. She was all mad like I ran off without a route. Apparently kids need to have routes. And was like, Mike took me. And she was like, who is Mike? And I was like, the kid who walked with me? And she was pissed, because that's like a law thing. So we went to every Mike in 3rd, 4th, 5th grades, and it was none of them. I never did see that Mike again. Case file number 1942, written by T.S. Epsilon. Nighttime scene, strangers keen, and a gruesome mien. When I was in high school, my mom was driving me home from a choir concert when we saw a homeless man get hit by a car. She stopped to help and grabbed a blanket from the trunk to cover him with. I stayed in the car. Eventually we were released when the authorities showed up and she gave a statement. So we went home, but we left the blanket. A couple of hours later, the doorbell rings. It's 2 complete strangers. I have never seen these people before in my life. They have our blanket, now splattered with blood. The guy didn't make it. And they casually greet me by my name, claiming to know me from school. They said they'd seen that it was our blanket, so they came to give it back. 1. They looked a little old for high schoolers, sort of like people who play high schoolers in Hollywood. 2. I would swear on my life that I had never seen them before. No shared classes, nothing. And it's not like I was a school celeb or anything. I mostly kept to myself. 3. It was nighttime, and I didn't leave the car. 4. Even if I can somehow get the others to make sense through weird coincidences, how did they know my address? Not really knowing what to do at the moment, I thanked them. Both parents looked at me like, who are these people? And accepted the bloody blanket. They left, we got rid of the blanket, and although I kept an eye out at school, I never saw those 2 again. Case file number 1943, written by Kroatoan 178. 2 orders, 2 quips, 21 pilot trips. I'm a barista at a coffee shop, and the shift I had a couple days ago threw me for a loop. So, I was taking an order from these 2 gentlemen at our walk-up window. The first guy ordered a drink, and I asked if he wanted whipped cream on it. He said, nah, that's okay. I'm sweet enough already. Now, I've worked here for 5 years, and I've heard many quips, but I hadn't heard that one before, so it stuck out in my mind. I laughed and took his friend's order. For context, we have speakers inside the building and outside, that we can Bluetooth music through. And I'm a big 21 Pilots fan, so that was what was playing. The second guy asked me, "Did you guys pick this music?" As opposed to a corporate office handpicking playlist for us or whatever. I said yes, and he mentioned that he was a big fan of the band also. Let it be known that I was wearing a band tee of theirs, but he didn't comment on it. I don't know if he realized it was or what. Now, here's where it gets kinda weird. Not 30 minutes later, I'm outside taking orders in our drive-thru. One car has 2 guys in it, and the driver orders a drink. I ask if he wants whipped cream. He says, "Nah, I'm sweet enough already." And I laugh it off in my head, but I'm thinking how weird of a comment that is to have 2 separate customers say within less than an hour. No hesitation. This guy gestures to my shirt and says, "Oh, 21 Pilots, right? Big fan myself." Again, I laugh it off and talk about the band with him, but inside I was like, what? These 3 guys were all different age demographics too. Case file number 1944, written by Hyper45, New. City chills, library thrills, and escalating spills. I was out with a group of friends, just chilling around the city. Someone decided that we should head on over to the library and just loiter there for a little while. Once we got there, I noticed this one guy stood out and got the feeling he was eyeballing me. So I said I was going to the bathroom really quickly. So when I got to the bathroom, the guy was already there, even though I hadn't seen him move from the spot he was sitting at. He was just waiting by the door. So I backed out of there as quickly as possible. When I got to my group again, I suggested that we should go eat somewhere, just so I could leave the library. When we started to head out, I saw the guy outside still staring at me, or maybe us, I don't know. And at that point, I knew something was wrong. When we got to a place to eat, I pulled one of my friends aside and told him about the guy. He didn't seem that worried at first, but when I asked him if he could lead me home, he started to ask questions. For context, I'm not someone who tends to ask someone to help me home. I can take care of myself. There was just something really sketchy about the guy. So when we get done eating, me and the friend begin to head home. And on the metro, I see the guy again, still staring. I point him out to my friend and he gets worried. At this point, I realize that I still haven't even thought about calling the police. So we get off on a very crowded platform and I call the police for the first time in my life. He's still there. We keep an eye on him just in case. And when the police showed up, we took our eyes off him for a few seconds and pointed to where he was just moments ago. Surprise, surprise, he's gone, not a trace. The police could tell I was shook and asked questions, like what he looked like and such. I gave them the best description I could, and so did my friend. The police told us they could give us a ride home if we wanted to, and I don't think I've ever given a faster yes in my life. I don't think I was hallucinating, as my friend saw him as well. I still look over my shoulder whenever I go outside. Case file number 1945, written by Biri Niri. In a cafe of rock, fate decided to play, and it wouldn't decay. A few years back, when I was in my early 20s, I was working in a hard rock cafe. I'm behind the till in the shop, and a Sri Lankan family comes in. It's an adult couple, their children, and a frail-looking elderly man. The older man looks straight at me when he comes in, and I felt an intense moment of deep connection, as if I'd known him for years. He immediately turned on his heels and left. The other adults looked troubled and followed him out, and I could see them out of the window. He was nodding and waving his hands. A few minutes later, they come back in, and the elderly man comes up to the till and smiles at me, looking as if he was about to cry. I greet him with my best customer service voice, but there's such a pit in my stomach. I ask if he needs any help, and he kind of shakes himself and literally turns and picks up the first thing he sees. It's just a random keychain. I put it through the till, and he just maintains eye contact with me with this sad smile. He thanks me in a small voice. As they're leaving, he turns at the door, gives me this one last lingering look, and then they leave. Against all logic and reason, I felt like I knew that in my past life, he was my husband. I don't even believe in reincarnation. I haven't told anyone about this because it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I felt like an entire life flashed before my eyes. It was probably all in my head, but it's been many years, and it has stayed with me. Case file number 1946, written by McGriddles44. A heartfelt quest, a touching tale that left me blessed. I like to play disc golf as a hobby. I ended up finding a pretty cool custom-dyed disc in some brush on hole 2 of a course I had never played at before. It wasn't the type of driver I used very often, so it just sat in my bag for a couple months, until I figured I'd go sell this seldom used disc to clear out some room in the bag to get a few extra bucks. I went to my local dynamic disc store to sell the disc, and usually there are only 1 or 2 guys working the shop at a time, but this time there were like 10 dudes in the back office and they were all talking with each other. I handed over the disc to the employee, who came out to help me. As soon as he laid eyes on this disc, he froze and asked how I got it. I told him, and dumbfounded, he takes the disc to show the group of guys in the office, and they all have the same weirdness. Just saw a ghost look. Turns out, the original owner of the disc was one of their good friends, and had passed away that week, and all those guys were there because they had just left his funeral. We're about to go out and play around together to celebrate his life. Seemed to be a bit beyond sheer coincidence, but wow, I felt so touched and happy to be able to give them back a piece of their friend they had just lost recently. I still get goosebumps when I relive that moment. Case file 1935. København dreams a disappearing store, or so it seems. So I think much like there are space-time portals that occupy the world, especially when you're driving on roads, there must be space-time portals that intersect with other universes as well. So people aren't just zipping over there only in their conscious minds, because they have friends over, they even interact and feel the material there. They truly do go to a different universe, and in this case, all 3 of you did, I believe. But in that universe, things can be entirely different. And the question is, in my mind, at least this is still just theory, the closer you are to a different parallel universe, the more things are similar. So the universes right on top of us are probably more or less the same, minor details. But then if you jump really far away, you could have massive differences. Entirely different species, different planet structure, etc. Now, somewhere in the middle, you can just have big differences, like a store that is entirely different. Different clothes, doesn't even have a second floor. So I think that's what happened. It's just a space-time anomaly that transitioned you between universes. And I guess it probably was in the same spot. So when you left the store and walked back the same way, then you just intersected it again and were ported back. And it's all seamless. You know, there's no crackling of energy or anything like that to denote it's a portal. No, you don't see it. Unless it's at the end or beginning. Because we have had examples of portals where there was energy and it was like unstable. My guess is that's either when it's just forming or at the end when it's actually unstable. One or the other. Now time for the joke of the day. I asked the waitress, "Can I ask you a question about the menu, please?" And she slapped me across the face. She said, "The men I please are of no concern to you." Yeah, that'd be rather private. How dare he ask that question? Case file 1936. From the Deck of Dreams to Celestial Beams. Just how you described the night and the absence of light pollution definitely makes me want to get a boat and just sail out into the ocean or a big lake and just experience it. I had experienced something similar with my dad when we went hunting, really far out. The canvas of the stars, the heavens, is magical indeed. If you've never experienced that, being far away from light pollution, boy, you should. Doesn't mean you're gonna see a UFO zigzagging about, but you might, who knows. And yeah, you're entirely right. It couldn't be a meteor, because those travel in straight lines. Same thing with satellites. They follow a determined path in orbit. So, if something is moving in the sky, in such a weird way that defies G-forces as we understand it, conservation of momentum, what else could it be but a UFO? Now, that doesn't mean it's alien. It could be some military experiment that we have hyper-advanced anti-grav technology or something. That's kind of cool, too, to think about. I don't know which one it is, but either way, what you're seeing shouldn't be physically possible, and that's enough to titillate my mind, because, hey, technology can go way beyond what we think it can. That's awesome. Okay, so it's found 1937. From missing 411 to boots on the run. You know, I really do think that sometimes when objects go missing, it is a prank. There's someone up there just saying, okay, we're going to take this obvious item that was put in a place that they know where it was. There's no ambiguity about it. They know the boots were supposed to be there. They weren't. And then way in the distant future, we're just going to put them back there and just mess with their minds. It literally is like a prank show. Maybe there's a TV show, like a reality TV show in the real universe, real world, and pranking us is part of the content. I could see that. Something I'd watch. Now, time for the joke of the day. My wife divorced me when she found out I only had 9 toes. She is lactose intolerant. I get it. I mean, wouldn't have good balance. Couldn't go hiking and stuff, or it'd be difficult. Okay, so it's found 1938. A smash van, then not. What a strange plot. Yeah, so once again we intersect a portal that transmits your body, your soul, everything over to a different universe. One thing is curious though. I speculate that you have to, if you go to a different universe via a portal, then you have to intersect the same portal to go back. But then in that case, when did you intersect that portal to go back? No, that still fits. So you're in your original universe, you see this crash, you carry on, you move forward, and somewhere along the path forward, you intersect this portal. Now you're in a different universe, you pivot back, and you see the van that is, entirely normal and, well, not normal, but has a flat, nothing major. They're fixing it. So similar, but different enough. And then you just go back to your originating destination along the same path, intersect the same portal, and voila, now you're back in the originating universe. The curious thing, though, is if this is true and how it works, that means there are instances where people cross over to different universes, not via quantum immortality, but their whole bodies and everything. And they're stuck there. They never intersect the same portal again to go back because they didn't even realize it happened, and there's no visual indicator of a portal. So maybe that's what's going on. And that could explain doppelganger theory too. Maybe it's not just bad mojo vibes. It's because if you see yourself, you know that physical matter that is ported over here doesn't belong here, has their own quantum signature or whatever you want to call it. That is hyper interesting to me. Yeah, you can cross to different universes in your full body, not just via quantum immortality. Makes sense. It would explain a few things, especially doppelganger theory. But then if that's true, if you see something weird, an anomaly, then try to traverse the exact same path you did before. Unless you want to be in a new universe. I mean, I guess that's kind of fun too. Hell, this explains missing 411 cases as well. Case notes are filed in 1939. Driving north with a temporal report. Man, this is just space-time portal theme this week. No doubt about that. You intersect a portal, not to a different universe, just ahead in space-time. Quite a distance. Normally it's like a few miles, but this one was almost an hour worth of traveling. Just like that. Incredible. Outside of that, just drive back. Everything is normal. Maybe whenever this happens, you always are in a new universe, but maybe sometimes it's just the universe right next door. And because it's right next door, there's almost no differences, so you never realize you're in a different universe. Okay, sounds found 1940. Gold by day, UFO by night, peppered with a cosmic fright. I always wanted to go gold panning. Kinda sounds fun. Yeah, in that New England vibe too. I'd be down for that. But that is an interesting observation regarding the UFO, that it wasn't blinking, but simply rotating, and there was a light only on one end, and that's why you saw it. Now, here's the question. If this is an alien craft, would they not have the technology to keep themselves hidden? Why would they shine a bright light from their ship? Presumably they wouldn't have to, right? They'd be able to block that. Just, flip the switch, turn off the light. So if it is alien, either they somehow don't have the technology to shield themselves from being seen in the sky, or they wanted you to see them. I don't know which one would be the case. There are instances of telepathic communication when people see aliens or UFOs in the sky. So maybe they don't care. Maybe they do want you to see it and then they connect. Maybe that's how they can connect. You have to physically attune your mind to seeing them, to open that port, you could say. Now time for the joke of the day. A man returns from the doctor and tells his wife that the doctor has told him he has only 24 hours to live. Given his prognosis, the man asks his wife for sex. Naturally, she agrees, and they make love. About 6 hours later, the husband goes to the wife and says, "Honey, you know I only have 18 hours to live. Could we please do it one more time?" Of course, the wife agrees, and they do it again. Later, as the man gets into bed, he looks at his watch and realizes that he now only has 8 hours left. He touches his wife's shoulder and asks, "Honey, please, just one more time before I die." She says, "Of course, dear," and they make love for the third time. After this session, the wife rolls over and falls asleep. The man, however, worried about his impending death, tosses and turns, until he's down to 4 more hours. He taps his wife, who rouses. "Honey, I only have 4 more hours. Do you think we could..." At this point, the wife sits up and says, "Listen, I have to get up in the morning. You don't." Damn. So brutal. I still have work. I have to carry on with my life, you know. Damn. Caissons from 1941. 5 blocks away was Mike, who vanished that day. Okay, yeah, I'd say guardian angel. Can you say it with me? How crazy is it that people would try to do that to a child? Sometimes we have guardian angels looking out for us. But you know, it probably wasn't a Mike. The guardian angel just said that name, knowing that all the other Mikes were not him. The vessel was not Mike at all. He just gave some random name. Why not? You don't want the vessel you possess to get into trouble. You're just taking it over temporarily to prevent a tragedy. And prevent it he did. +1 for the guardian angel. Amazing. Caissons from 1942. Nighttime scene, strangers keen, and a gruesome mien. Okay, this one, I don't know. As you say, you've never seen them. They appeared too old to be in high school. Like people pretending to be younger when they're not. Like in Hollywood. How did they get your address? And how did they even see you when you were hidden in the car? There's so many weird oddities to this one. You can almost fit them in a mundane explanation, but altogether they just don't mesh, and I don't know what would cause this. I don't even know what kind of glitch would cause this either. It's just bizarre. Why return a bloody blanket? Why would anyone want that back? What a weird experience. Caissons from 1943. 2 orders, 2 quips, 21 pilot trips. Hey, this is a cool little story. Could be someone just had a friend and they told them what they said to the barista, and because of that, it was uncommon that they could go back and just do it again. But then it's not really something you can plan. You don't know what the favorite band of the barista is going to be before you go in. So it could just be an extreme coincidence too, or some kind of temporal event, but it was a different person a third time, so I don't know. That's just an oddity, but interesting nevertheless. Also, I have to say, I'm surprised you've never heard, "No, I don't want that. I'm sweet enough already." That kind of sounds like a pickup line, to be honest, and that you haven't heard that in 5 years is shocking, actually. Now time for the joke of the day. I named my daughter after my mother-in-law. Raving psycho will soon be a year old. People don't like their in-laws, but damn. Case file number 1944. City chills, library thrills, and escalating spills. With how you describe this man just being in these places. Almost like a ninja, melding with the shadows. And always being there. It does seem supernatural. But it could just be a weirdo that was stalking you and had nefarious intent. Either way, calling the police was the right move. If it was supernatural or not, that scared him off, so good job on doing that. If it is supernatural, I guess he would return, and in that case, always travel with friends. Yeah, but that's just good advice in general. Caissons from 1945. In a cafe of rock, fate decided to play, and it wouldn't decay. So I do love the idea of multiple past lives where this is a simulation, a kind of game, an MMORPG you could attribute it to. So you die permanently, beyond quantum immortality, you wake up in the real world, and you decide to go again. You load up a different scenario, and perhaps we're all interconnected. It's like Matrix style, where Neo wakes up and there's pods everywhere. But in the real world, hopefully, it's not hyper-advanced AI robots that have enslaved us, but instead we're just there for an afternoon. Like, this is our gaming session for the day. And it's not that unbelievable. I mean, there could be billions of people that are just lazing around, playing this game. I mean, in the future, if we colonize space, we could have trillions upon trillions of people. You know, the planet has a limited amount of capacity, but space is limitless if we can colonize it. So yeah, I could believe that. Makes a lot of sense. If the real world is similar to our own, and probably would be based similar to what we have in, like, we base our video games in this world, in this simulation, based on our reality. Now we add embellishes, we add dragons and stuff and magic, but it's still based core in this world and the systems that govern it. Given all that, okay, maybe you did have past lives, maybe in a different version of the game, a different playthrough. You knew this man, and you were lovers. It's entirely plausible. How cool is that? That it's even plausible at all, logically. That is so cool. Okay, songs from 1946. A heartfelt quest. A touching tale that left me blessed. So I'd never heard of disc golf. Interesting. You could still say it's coincidence, but I'm not going to. This was maybe their friend, his ghost, his echo, guiding you to find this disc, and then influencing you to return it, sell it. Everything had to align. You had to do that, you had to think that, you had to find it, you had to have the motivation to bring it to sell it at that exact time. On his day, the funeral. And, you know, when they came back after the funeral. Unreal. The timing had to be so pinpoint, like firing a bullet at another bullet. Who's to say, really, but what an incredible story to have and share with other people. Because it's not so supernatural that people will just dismiss it. It's just extraordinary. And people who know, like us, we know. Now time for the joke of the day. I'm reading a horror story in Braille. I can just feel something bad is going to happen. Yes, you can. I always wondered what it would actually feel like reading in Braille. And like in those intense events in a book, are the dots elevated even more? So you really get that intensity from reading it? I don't know. Could be interesting if they did that. But maybe it would confuse the blind. I really don't know. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony, signing off.